Hey, Mr. Maple people out there, we appreciate you all watching today's video.
Bonjour, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. Today we've got a great 10 at 10 video for you. Appreciate you all catching these premieres. This is the 10 at 10 for May 31st of 2022. So again, this is the 10 at 10 for May 31st of 2022. We hope you'll be excited. I think we have a really good lineup here for you today. It's going to be a really fun 10 at 10, and you may have seen some of these in previous ones, but there's definitely some all-stars back.
I'm Tim, this is my brother Matt. We've got a mail order maple nursery out of Western North Carolina called MrMaple.com, and we ship mail order trees directly to your door. We do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples, and we list 10 trees every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. This week, there's 20. So if you want to figure out about the full listing of 20 trees to be listed today on Mr. Maple, you can go to MrMaple.com at 10 a.m. and you'll actually get that email. But if you want to know ahead of time, sign up for our weekly emails. And you'll get an email at 9 a.m. that's got the full listing of 20 trees that are getting listed that day on MrMaple.com. That's the email you'll definitely want to check out.
Hey, we love all the comments in these premieres too. You guys are awesome. I just love the community there. I love to jump in there and say good morning and just see all the comments. And we love to see where you're from. So if you're watching this live, and put in the comment section below in the live chat where you're from. I've really been enjoying hearing all the people that are watching us internationally. And we don't ship internationally, but it's just fun that you're tuning in. We greatly appreciate that audience as well here on our YouTube channel. So definitely in the comment section below, pop in there, say good morning, and let us know where you're from this morning as well.
So starting up today, we've got Acer palmatum sucasa silhouette. We recently did a video on this on Maple Street in Hendersonville. So this is a really cool, fast-growing, narrow, upright Japanese maple.
Yeah, we've done a whole video on this one, so definitely check that out. We got to see the original ones there at Sucasa Maple Nursery in Japan. Just an amazing place to go see. Truly grown in a great fashion. This is a nice columnar Japanese maple with an upright form that goes to some very bold reds in the fall. Now in that video, Tim mentioned a really good tip. Growing this one in a little bit more sun gives it even more columnar habit. If you've got this one in a dense shade, the branches will get a little wider in search of sunlight, but if you're getting this one a little bit of sun, up to zone 8. This one can handle sun up to zone 8. Work zones 5 through 9, and zone 9 you definitely want a little protection. But give this one some sunlight. It's extremely durable, and you're going to create, a very nice columnar tree form.
I have seen people try to give us a little too much shade, and it will grow a little more wider, searching for light with the side branches. Sunlight does keep it more narrow, and the fall color on this is just outstanding. Really gives you some really good red color.
Another tip I'll give you is you can prune side branches, but don't prune your central leader to that one. By keeping a central leader, you'll keep that tree going, very much in a columnar fashion. Now, moving quite along, we have the exact opposite shape here next. So we went from Sucasa Silhouette, which is the tall, narrow one. Now we're bringing out the Looking Glass Falls. Now, Looking Glass Falls is a selection we made here at Mr. Maple. It's part of our Area 51 collection. These are a little past their spring color, but this one leaves out with a nice kind of Sumagaki-esque purple border in the early spring. It is a Ryusen style Japanese maple, so it's going to get about as tall as you stake it, but a nice low cascading one. And for you folks that like the hanging baskets, we've got some nice low grafts in these today as well.
Yeah, I love Looking Glass Falls. Like Matt said, it's part of our Area 51 collection. That we started calling it that, not actually out of a marketing term originally, but because our dad used to go and sell trees while we were gone at garden shows that we only had one of. And we said, hey, that's the Area 51 area. You don't have clearance to go in there unless, you're certain people. And then it became our Area 51 collection where all the cool, neat stuff was at the nursery.
Now, I saw someone sharing this one in one of the Japanese maple groups, and I got a chuckle out of it because somebody posted a picture and said, hey, I got to go to the real Looking Glass Falls. And they posted a picture of the Looking Glass Falls here in Western North Carolina. It's there in Brevard. And that's actually what this tree is named for. So we were developing a lot of these Pendulous Treasures collections. We were going through a lot of different interesting, Nakakomoto weeping, Jiro Shidari, and Ryusen style seedlings, looking for that weeping trait, but with alternate, characteristics. Things like Looking Glass Falls, things like Fountain of Youth, and things like Dragon Master that have that really unique color or shape to them. Now, we actually decided we were going to start doing a little bit of the Japanese method there. And a lot of your Japanese cultivars are named after waterfalls that are near them.
Like Seki no Kigon. That's a perfect example of a waterfall at Nikko National Park. And it's a Acer dam that has a weeping habit. And that's one of the things that got us started thinking, hey, we've got some really good waterfalls here in Western North Carolina.
Yeah, and there's over 300 waterfalls in our region. It's one of the most waterfall regions in all of the world here in Western North Carolina. I think there's 300 waterfalls within like a 100-mile radius here. But one of the most famous ones, certainly Looking Glass Falls. I loved what the name gave to this one. With that purple border, It kind of just gave it that kind of mythical style feel to it. I think the name fit it well. I'm a huge fan of Looking Glass Falls. I think you'll like this one. If you're not already growing it, check out some of the photos on our website. Definitely check out some of the posts people have done about this one that have been growing it.
And this is one too that you can stake up. So watch our video on how to stake a Japanese maple and then let it cascade down from that point if you want it to be at a higher point before it starts cascading. I've seen similar styles even used as a ground cover, which is really cool just to let a Japanese maple creep and crawl across the ground.
Yeah, you folks that like to do the hanging baskets, these are some pretty perfect candidates for that. As you can see with these, they're low grafts, and you know, they'll weep down past the pot if you put them in a big pot or container. I like to put them in the ground, stake them to about 5 to 6 feet, and then just let them do their thing. But an awesome heat tolerant tree. One that I think gives you a little something special, especially in that early spring. The new growth will have a little bit of that border, but the early spring is really when it shines with that dark purple border.
And I think this is one that can handle zones in zone 8 full sun. So it is a very heat tolerant tree, like Matt said. If you give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun, you'll keep that purple border longer in the season. But this is a very heat tolerant tree that'll do well for people in definitely in the south for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Good sizes on these.
So next up, we've got Acer japonicum meikujaku, the dancing peacock.
Hey, stop me if you've heard this before, but check out our recent video on meikujaku. You know, our goal is to have a video on every single plant we do, so we probably can tell you that with most cultivars we have here. But we recently just did an update on our meikujaku video. We were there at St. John's in the Wilderness, and we just got a beautiful one to shoot with. You know, Brian saw the sun hitting it just right, and we had to get a shoot of that one. But I love meikujaku. You know, it's often referred to as the dancing peacock. That's what meikujaku translates to. Some great sizes in these. It's probably our most popular Acer japonicum cultivar. We love Acer japonicums. We're always working to get the Acer japonicums back on the website. They're almost a little bit like that Makawa family. People are like, hey, where are the Acer japonicums? And we're like, we put them up in good numbers. They just sell out quickly. So always a popular one for its spring, but also the fall colors.
A trick with the Acer japonicums, give them some shade or give them some dappled light, and this leaf will actually get much larger. And the leaves can get really, really large on the full moon Japanese maple types. And that's really cool on this tree that has this peacock style leaf. Meikujaku, also known as Aconita folium, just puts on some amazing, amazing fall colors with yellows, oranges, reds, often infused all at the same time. And it's definitely a popular one with us. I think we've got 2 or 3 planted out in our garden.
We plant way more than that. I mean, there's probably one in every one of the gardens we do at least. But yeah, awesome tree. Really gets that essence of the peacock and that fall color on that fan. You can kind of turn the fan sideways and see. Definitely check out our full video on that after the 10 at 10. So a fun one that we can't do enough of meikujaku. It's always one we're trying to get back in stock. So next up, we got another one we recently did a video on. This one is the Vercades Jacus Potus.
Yeah, this is a sessilifolium. I often call this an angel feather type. And that's because the leaves are so divided, they look like almost lots of individual leaves and look like an angel's feathers. Also, Hagoromo and Koshimeno refer to dresses or angel feathers. And that's exactly what I really like about this plant, is this almost lace leaf style, the soft feel, to more of an upright.
Yeah, this one leaves out in the early spring with some pinks and apricots. It's a really unique plant with some really cool color changes. I think one thing we didn't even talk about in the video, and it's certainly present on Dave Vercade's original one, is that those petioles kind of get this swirling spaghetti look to them, which makes it even funkier in the older growth. It gives it a really unique habit, especially in the shade. I notice it gets a lot of that swirling to it. And
the peachy apricot it has in the spring and on the new growth just gives us something a little bit extra.
Yeah, it's a smaller overall one for the upright sessilifoliums. You can give this one full sun up to zone 8 though, so it works zones 5 through 9, sun up to zone 8. Beautiful, beautiful specimen here. I think it's so unique. Tim kind of got obsessed with this style, the sessilifoliums, if you will. So we had to grow every single sessilifolium on the market. I'm pretty sure we have every type that's ever been named here at our nursery. But one of our favorites is definitely that Vercades Jacus Potus. It's one we try to keep back in stock. You may have even saw the video and heard the story. We carried the little bitty graft back in the cup holder, and some of our friends laughed at us a good bit because it was like the holy grail there. We were keeping everybody off that cup holder so it didn't break our little bitty graft. We had the original little graft there from Dave to us. And it's turned into a beautiful tree for us, and one we're still offering at Mr. Maple, you know, over 10 years later. So
yeah, I like this plant. Real unique, real different. Part of our Japanese maple weirdos. I think we talked about it once in our Japanese maple weirdo videos, because this is such a unique Japanese maple that really stands out in the garden.
We got to keep moving, man. These guys got a 10 at 10 train to catch. We got a flight leaving at 10 a.m. and it is 10 at 10 ready.
Acer Pictum Guri nishki. What? Yes, the batwing maple, the white ones are back. Last time they didn't last too long, and there was probably 150
something, yeah.
And so
again, we do build numbers on these. I apologize when they sell out quickly. Be ready at 10 for this one. Awesome variegation. I would say the closest thing to consider this to variegation wise is it's like a batwing maple with ukigumo-like spotted variegation. Almost has that sand dust white on it.
Yeah.
But it's more consistent than ukigumo. I have several of these in my yard. They're white every single year for me. You want to prune any reversion you see on this one, but it is an amazing plant that is a new one from Japan. It's really taken the market by storm. The Acer Pictums are a little bit more heat tolerant. I have this in full sun in western North Carolina. I would advise late day shade in most places. I'm here in zone 6B. Mine didn't burn all summer last year in full sun. I put out some nice specimens the year before that. So they've been 2 years in full sun and they're still looking great. But I mean, this one just, it speaks for itself. It's an amazing style variegation. Newer Acer Pictum from Japan. We've got a whole lineup of Acer Pictums we're working to release here at Mr. Maple. So, stay tuned for more of these. We've got a lot of these we're working on.
And check out our batwing maple video. We did a whole video just on the batwing maples. And this one is one of my favorites. It's hard to beat this one for sure.
So another one that probably won't last around long on our website today. These are Acer palmatum Allen's Gold.
Yeah, Allen's Gold just leaves out in the spring with some really nice gold orange color, some good yellows throughout the season. And then it's a pine bark. What? Yeah, it takes a little while to develop. It's a little bit slower than Nishikigawa and Arakawa, but it really develops a nice pine bark with age.
Yeah, this leaves out an amazing orange spring. Like it has like one of the most intense orange colors in that early spring garden. I mean, it rivals any of the Ueno Yamas, Katsuras. I think it even exceeds those. It is an amazing color. We're here in early summer right now, so it's getting into a little bit of that midsummer color here in the greenhouse. They'll start to put on orange or new growth, but probably one of the most unique traits about this one is that it is a pine bark also. It's a little slower to develop than like Arakawa, but it definitely comes with age. It starts to get that fissured pine bark to it. Bonsai enthusiasts can't get enough of this one right now because it's a true variant of a pine bark, which we haven't really had a different color change in there. We've had some different leaf shapes and some different bark types, but this is truly a unique and different color in the spring. Now, my friend Pat McCracken actually had this one originally. He shared it with me, and Pat had the original one there in his gardens, and it's quite a beautiful tree. It's growing quite quickly for him as well. And Pat had shared some signwood with me on this one very early on in his evaluations of it, and I had grafted it, and I called Pat up, and I said, Pat, I'm looking at my 7-gallon plant here in the landscape, and I loved it. I've been grafting it for its spring color. Did you know it's also a pine bark? And he said, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I said, hey, look at yours and let me know, because I'm looking at a 7-gallon right now, and this darn thing has just amazing pine bark going on. Like, it's really developing this fissured bark. So he said, let me hang up. I'll go check at the farm. I'll give you a call back. So Pat calls back later that day, and he's like, yeah, it's got pine bark. And then the next time we got out there, we really got some photos of that original trunk and everything. That tree now has a beautiful, beautiful fissured bark to it. So a true developing pine bark. It does take a little longer to get there, but once it gets there, it's every bit as striking as, Nishikigawa or something like that for that fissured bark.
And why those things are so cool is it makes the tree look really old as a younger specimen out in the landscape. Mm-hmm. So what it does is it makes your tree really show off and make it look like those really old bonsais. Speaking of, if you're a bonsai fanatic, this is the excellent cultivar to do it with because you get spring color and some barking. There's not going to be many other people who have something like that. It's going to be something very unique and very different.
I'm not an air layer guy at all, and I typically discourage it because it can add damage to the tree. But I would assume that Allen's Gold, its color, pattern, and everything would make it one of the easier ones to air layer and to do rooted cuttings of. So it may be one, if you're into that kind of thing, check it out, give it some tests, and see how it's doing as a rooted cutting, because I would venture to say it would work pretty well on that one as an air layer as well. I think it's one that's kind of going to get that bonsai industry by storm as it gets out there more too.
So this is a really, really cool one. It was a wild collected Acer lavagatum by Mark Wethington at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum. And he had it there at the J.C. Ralston Arboretum, and Matt and I kept going by and saying, Mark, if you don't put a name on that, we're going to name it after you.
Right.
And so he put the name Hong Long on it, which translates as red dragon. And this is such a cool plant. You want to give Acer lavagatum some protection from the hot afternoon sun, or some shade. But some sunlight, some dappled light, or some morning sun really peaks up the purple new growth leaves, but also the bark color, which can be a deep, deep, deep purple.
Yeah, it's a lavender purple. It's a lavender new growth. As Tim was saying, in morning sun, it's a little bit more dark purple in the spring. My favorite thing is right now, as they're getting into a little bit more of the summer color, they get almost like a translucent sheen to them. So you get kind of like a bluey, emeraldy green, older growth over top of that darker growth on top. It's so unique. Yeah, I had this one in the greenhouse for forever, just as Mark Wethington. And I was like, Mark, you've got to put a name on this, or we're naming it after you. Because he gave us some signs off this. He actually wild collected it. So it came in as a species, but then very quickly turned into a cultivar of a species for its very unique and outside the box traits.
So for y'all people that might not be the maple geeks that we are, Acer lavagatum is another species in section palmata, closely related to the Japanese maples like the oliveranums, the shirasawanums, and the japonicums. They're a lot of times found in China at higher elevations. And people like the Acer lavagatum because often these can handle higher elevations and colder temperatures than many of the other semi-evergreen to evergreen maples. Now, this in hotter climates will keep those leaves year-round. In colder climates, it will become more deciduous, so it will drop some of those leaves and push new growth. We really like this plant. One of the key tips that we've got for people with this plant during the winter, if you store it in your garage or something like that, I don't really recommend it because it likes to have moisture just like the other plants outside. And so this is a plant that you'll really want to keep outside during the winter where it'll get some natural water.
Yeah, this is a really fun one. It's one we're really excited to offer again here at Mr. Maple. It's really unique. This is actually grafted onto the same understock as that Allen's Gold. So they're both grafted onto Acer palmatum. Even though it's an Acer lavagatum, believe it or not, it's in the same section palmata. I wouldn't say as closely because of leaf shape, but it's related to palmatum, just like the Acer japonicum is related to Acer palmatum. They're all in that same family and are interchangeable for rootstock. So these are grafted to Acer palmatum understocks. We actually make them go fully deciduous here in zone 6, partially because we dry out our greenhouse a little bit in the winter, but they're fully deciduous for us here, and they re-leaf every single year. Like Tim was saying, those hotter zones, they may hold a little bit longer.
So this is a reticulated type, Acer palmatum strawberry spring.
Lovely plant. You've saw us talk about this one before, probably in our new ghost category. Strawberry Spring is a Talon Buchholz introduction that has a lot of splash to it. Now, Strawberry Spring is exactly what this one encompasses. It has a beautiful, that strawberryish pink-red spring display with that reticulated variegation. Each leaf has a little bit of etching in it. Just really gives it something special. We can't do a 10 at 10 without getting some reticulated variegated Japanese maples in there for you, it seems, and this is no exception.
And this one just really has some really strawberry pinks. I'm talking strawberry. And then it goes to a green with some veining to it. Give it some morning sun with afternoon shade to keep that pink color the longest time throughout the season. I remember when Talon found this and he had some propagated. He's like, Tim, I was talking to him on the phone. He's like, Tim, I'm sending you a really cool tree. And we got it in the mail, and it's such an awesome plant that I think a lot of y'all really enjoy. And that strawberry just reticulation in the spring, then to this color, just really gives you that etching, that ghost-like variegation.
I know it was one of the ones I was most excited to get from him early on. When we'd heard about it, we'd saw pictures of it, and I just couldn't wait to get it into the collection and get it offered for you. So we've been producing a lot of these. It's one we're a big fan of, and I think you'll love that one, especially in that spring garden. Now, moving on along, we have another Talon Buchholz introduction. This is another one of his newer ones, and guess what? We did a full video on this one too. So this is Acer palmatum yellow threads. You're going to want to go check that out. We've got a full video in front of a specimen in spring color showing that beautiful yellow display there on that linear style foliage. You've heard me say it, but I love the gracefulness of the linear lobulums. They give you that bamboo-like feel in the garden, but that gracefulness of a Japanese maple. And also, non-invasiveness of a Japanese maple versus bamboo. So there's something to be said about that as well. But just awesome there, especially in that spring garden for this one.
Now this one, you want to give it some morning sun to dappled light, to full sun if you're further up north, because this one really that sunlight peaks up these yellow colors on yellow threads. And this is one that I love because it's one of the first yellow colored linear lobulum types.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much else out there like it. It adds a lot of color to the landscape. And check out our video on adding yellow to the landscape. You know I love yellow. Yellow threads is no exception. With that thin bamboo style leaf and some amazing yellow color, yellow threads is a nice mid-sized Japanese maple that has some really good fall colors of some oranges and reds and some yellows in there all intertwined, but also good spring and summer color for you out in the landscape and garden.
Hey, that 10 at 10's coming up here today at 10, so we better keep it moving. We've got a 10 at 10 coming up for you. These are all going to be listed, and you're going to be proud of these Americans right here. These are some beautiful Americans. We're bringing you Ginkgo Biloba American here in our 2-gallon size. You know, these are excellent for that patio planter, landscape, conifer garden. I know some bonsai artists are going to want to get a hold of this dense one and kind of play with it a little bit. This is an awesome dwarf ginkgo that's going to do an amazing color in your landscape. It's got that dwarf dense habit, everything you love about an upright ginkgo for the fall color, but in a nice small shape.
Salt tolerant, heat tolerant, pollution tolerant, drought tolerant. Check out our video on ginkgo care for growing ginkgos. They want a little more sunlight and they want lime, garden lime, that really helps affect the pH of the soil, so this plant can really take up water and nutrients and make a nice dense full little dwarf for you. And this one, the correct name I believe is Moroccan, but everyone in America calls it American. And this is a super popular little dwarf ginkgo that you can grow in containers, but it's still going to give you that school bus yellow fall color that everybody loves.
Yeah, I believe this one's actually named after Pete Vergelt from Peve Starfish and many different plants. I believe the story goes this one's actually named after his wife. Awesome plant. It's a ginkgo we can't do enough of. I mean, it is probably one of our most popular dwarf ginkgos. It's got a real nice texture to it. We do a video on this one as well, but it's got a real bubbly, rounded appearance to the leaf. Gives the overall dwarf tree just a really nice texture there in the garden. It's, you know, it's kind of like the Makawa Yatsubusa of ginkgos. It's that dense, tight layering one. It's one of the smallest ones. It's going to get a little wider than tall and just be nice and dense.
Other cool thing about ginkgos, you can make ginkgo tea out of the leaves. That's something really awesome. Maybe we should do a video at some point about that. But something extra added bonus for an ornamental in your landscape and garden. We really appreciate you watching today's video. Again, if you want to figure out about the other 10 trees today, go to mrmaple.com at 10 a.m. Those will all get listed. If you want to know about it coming out in the future ahead of time, make sure to sign up for our weekly email on mrmaple.com. You go to mrmaple.com, email pop-up will pop up, plug your email in there, and you'll be a part of the next week's 10 at 10.
I have people say all the time, man, I missed when you added that. And I always tell people, hey, we make it no secret about when the new plants are coming. We try to make it as easy as you can and as fair as you can for everybody. So we don't favor anybody. We don't prioritize. We list our plants at 10 a.m. and we list good numbers in them. So some things do sell out quickly, but we make an earnest effort to have a really good amount of each of these for you because we're plant collectors here too. You know, me, Tim, and Brian, we all started out kind of as plant collectors and plant hoarders, and we know how hard it is to find some of these cool things. So our goal at Mr. Maple is always to get the cool things and make them easier to get for you. So every Tuesday at 10, there's something new coming down the pipeline. That's 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you're on the West Coast, you know, if you're on California, it may be 7 o'clock. You may have to set an alarm there for that one. But we try to make it as easy as possible for everybody all over the United States to have an equal shot to check out some of these amazing plants.
And speaking of checking out, make sure to check out quickly. When you add them to your cart, it doesn't just save them for you. When you check out, it saves them, reserves them with your name on them. So we've got exact live quantity on the website. So once they're sold out, they're sold out. Every week we have people email us and say, are you really sold out of this? I had this in my cart and it's 10:30. Well, you got to check out quickly, unfortunately, with some of these because there's a lot of other people out there who love plants just like you do who are going after these same plants. And we make it as fair as we can, like Matt's talking about.
Yeah, so we try to make it simple.
So make sure to check out as quickly as you can at 10 a.m. As soon as these plants hit, many of these won't last very long.
But we actually put up pretty good numbers in most things these days. It's just very popular. Some of these items, especially if they're Area 51 and kind of an exclusive to Mr. Maple or something you don't see a lot of other places, those things do tend to sell out pretty quickly. So be ready when those are up. We greatly appreciate you watching. Again, these sizes are indicative of May of 2022. If you're watching this video a year later, they may be slightly larger or slightly smaller. This is kind of what we have in stock right now. And they'll be in this kind of size range. We like to give you that example too here.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.